Hey, welcome in, guys. Give me one moment. Just finishing up the last little bit here. I know you guys like looking at the beard. I know, but I figured tonight we would try this out. We would try out actually having an opening display picture. Look at that! Look at that nice little picture there. Aren't you guys so happy? I'm just out here gathering all the freedoms, gathering the freedoms for you boys and girls, so we can have a nice, lovely discussion. Because that is what's important, right? That's what's important. Is we can gather all the happiness and all the little freedoms while we're talking about this. I do wanna give a shout out for my buddies over there at the Muddied Waters of Freedom. Now, if you guys haven't heard about these people, this would be Shane or Spike and Matt, and these two, fantastic. They're on Facebook, YouTube, and Periscope, and the hosts tell you about the week's events with the seriousness and the reverence from one that would expect from two radical libertarians. Now, if you guys never heard of them before, and I'm sure most of you haven't, make sure you guys give them a tune tonight. Tonight they are Matt and Spike. They will be talking about what's going on this week. They're actually going to be live right now, right along with us. So if you guys want to hop over there, you guys want to come back over this way, do what you got to do. Have a good time, and it'll always, of course, be a good time here. So I think we're just about ready to go. I hope you guys are well. Welcome in. I'll just close my eyes and imagine the beard. I click start, and then suddenly I've got error messages popping up. Thankfully, it didn't look as if it was affecting our stream. So, but yes, Muddied Waters of Freedom. Make sure you guys are tuning into them. Check them out. See what's going on over there on their side. I know that they run 3 different shows each week. They run the week on Tuesdays nights, right? This is the night where both hosts are there talking about the current week's events. So if you guys don't like my spin on things on Tuesdays, you guys can get a refreshing view from them, or you can watch one of us on replay. But then you also have Spike, who will have My Fellow Americans, where he takes people in, just your average Joe Schmo, brings them on in, brings them onto the show, and challenges them on the worldview. And at the end of the conversation, and that's exactly what they have, at the end of these discussions, they oftentimes leave a little bit more empowered. A little more empowered on being an individual, and that's certainly a good aspect. And then you've got Matt running on with the writers block, I believe it was, and he's got random Joe Schmoes right along with them coming on, and they're having nice little discussions as well. It's a little less political for the most part, but nonetheless, great times, great shows. Make sure you guys are checking out the Muddied Waters of Freedom, because I know you guys are always looking to find that next source. Find that next source. Find that next person that's up and coming, and certainly the Muddied Waters of Freedom. If you guys can find them on Facebook, I'm sharing their memes constantly. They are hilarious. They're beautiful. Fantastic guys, for sure. So, tonight, what are we talking about tonight here on Mr. America, the Bearded Truth Show? Tuesday night, 7 p.m. Eastern. What could we possibly be talking about tonight? Well, of course, we got to talk about the wall, because negotiations have come to fruition. Ooh, we got a deal out there. Is this deal going to be accepted? We'll talk about that. We'll get into the roots of that. We're also going to be talking a little bit about Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris finally comes out and says that she has no idea what a timeline means. So she admits to doing something, and this could very well put her up with the timeline that she gave. Depending on which way you accept the timeline, could put her up where she is caging people, putting people in prison, and fighting against them. While also smoking the marijuana. So we're going to get into that a little bit. Mitch McConnell's making some moves there in the Senate. You guys know we covered the Green New Deal last week. We covered that, the abomination of a bill, the sheer destruction of our economy in order to end the farting of cows. Well, Mitch McConnell's made some moves, and I think certainly that is well worth getting into as well, because he, as much as the Turtle does a lot of good defense, he also is pretty good at taking the offense sometimes as well, and certainly with this instance, I'm really upset right now. My app is not wanting to open up on my computer, which has all of my notes. Mitch McConnell, when he does take a good offense, it is well worth noting it when it happens and what it's about. And certainly this is one of those situations that really does need to get covered. So I want to get into the Kamala Harris situation first. And of course, we're going to have a couple offhand discussions as we continue on with the discussion tonight. But with Kamala Harris, so she graduated, and well, let's go back to the beginning of this, the actual beginning of this. Kamala Harris was on a radio show in which she was talking about her past and talking about what's going on, and she brought up the fact that she smoked pot. She smoked pot. And she said, I smoked pot and listened to Tupac and I listened to Snoop Dogg and I was just having a grand old time. It was a good time. It was beautiful. It brought joy to the people. We need to have more joy. The same woman who, when she was Attorney General, same person who has been advocating for tougher laws against people who smoke marijuana, same person who just recently, up to 2014 even, was against marijuana, is now saying, you know what, we got to flip it. I gotta show you guys just of how tolerant I was, just of how accepting of this I was in the past, and if I was doing it, then you guys should be able to do it too, except for all of you people that I've already incarcerated. Screw you guys, I'm going home. So Kamala Harris coming out and bringing the truth. There's an issue there, right? There's an obvious issue there when you advocate for a system in which you want to tear apart. It would be different than, let's say you have an attorney general that tries to turn a blind eye against marijuana cases, that tries to downplay it, tries to not build up these cases, and tries to, if marijuana was the only charge that you were getting pushed against you, then they're trying to diminish these, and then later on goes, yeah, I used to smoke marijuana, it was no big deal. You could remain consistent on that, right? But being on the left means that you have to have no consistent, or you are not required to be consistent. You're not required to be helpful or anything. And so it really opens her up to a lot of scrutiny because of that. Now, of course, I'm glad that she's getting on board with opening up marijuana. I'm glad that she's advocating for it being legalized. And we've had this discussion many a times, and we'll go back through to the timeline as soon as I can get my notes up. I apologize that they aren't coming up. But when it comes to this, the marijuana, you have advocates out there right now that are advocating for medical marijuana. You have advocates for recreational marijuana. I am 100% on board with the idea of decriminalizing it in its entirety. Allow for the testing, allow for the studies, allow for people to make decisions with their own body. Now, of course, as a libertarian, as somebody who is in favor of liberty in its fullest extent, I don't want to just stop there. Why would I want to stop there? Of course not, right? I want you to be free to do as you want. I want you to have the ability to make your own decisions. If you want to do a line of cocaine, you are inherently not hurting anybody. You are inherently not infringing upon anyone else's lives. And so, at the core of that, at the fundamental value, at the the beginning of that entire conversation. If you are not hurting someone else, who gives you the authority to take over and destroy these people's lives? And so maybe I'm going down the Rand Paul path, the Ron Paul, not Rand Paul, the Ron Paul path a bit on this. But I think it's certainly something that needs to be heard by everybody, that you don't legislate morality, and you don't legislate just because you feel a way. You have to have an actual reason. You actually have to have a victim to say that there's been a crime involved. If we can move back to that idea, we would have a lot less slavery in this country. And yes, I'm using slavery in the correct way. It has gotten to that level. I really, as we are getting in, as I've gotten more involved with politics over the years, as I've dug down deep into the trenches of the Constitution, of the ways that our legislative branch is functioning right now, as I dig into all of this stuff, I realize that we are a society that is so heavily shackled. We are the ones that are constrained by our government, not the contrary, absolutely contrary to the tenor of what enacted them. The Constitution was supposed to put shackles on the federal government to not have them be overbearing in every bit of our lives. But as a result, the federal government has been able to grow itself in the ways that it sees fit, and to be able to control us in the way that it sees fit. And as a result, it has been us that have become the slaves to the system. It has been us that are the workers, our labor, right? Our effective tax rate. If you work for 10 hours, 4 of those hours are going to the rest of America. They're not going to you. So for 40%, you're a 40% slave right now. And going back to the Tea Party, to that time, right? To the Boston Tea Party, that was over a 2%, a 3% tax. And yet, here we are, 40% slaves, and no one is moving. Nobody is standing up and saying, this is wrong, we have to fight back against the system. And when it comes to this, I came to this realization also, was that because the left wing and the right wing are so far divided, that it's the further divided that they become, the easier it is for us to be blinded to the real issues. The easier it is to accept the solutions from our side and to denounce the sides from the other. We often see people criticize, right? And certainly because I'm more of the right wing, right? I'm not of the party. I am on the right wing of things. I believe in the freedom. I believe in freedom in that. I believe in a teeny tiny microscopic government. So by definition, yes, I am on the right. When it comes to the left, right, and they believe that the shackles placed on the government for societal things, for social safety nets, for the government to run something that inherently it's good. And the right believes that having more freedom is good, and that will be more prosperous. And you have these battles between the two. And from these battles, as a result from these battles, what we have is that people cheer when the shackles are placed on their enemies, right? We realize we've got 150-pound shackles on each one of our arms, and we're barely able to keep moving on. We're barely able to fund our families. We're barely able to provide compassion and care to our local communities. We can't afford to live the lives that we want to. But we'll sure as hell cheer when our political enemies, when the political opposition gets hit with something that they don't like. We see this all the time. We see this. This is a normal mainstream thing to watch when the lefty gets hit with sheer facts and gets 4 Pinocchios, right? Everyone cheers about that. When the right winger gets proven to be racist or disgusting in any way, right? Both sides are obviously guilty of the 4 Pinocchios, and both sides are obviously guilty of the racist and everything. But the left cheers, And what becomes of that is that your side, you come to their defense. No, let's slow down. Let's look at the facts. Let's understand the evidence. Let's hear it all out before we jump to conclusions. Oh, it's a lefty. It's a lieutenant governor of Virginia. Burn him at the stake. Let him go and let his career be killed now. We have this huge issue. Nobody wants to be reasonable. Nobody wants to be logical, and nobody wants to come to the bigger picture on things. Nobody wants to understand that most of our problems that we've faced in our society here in America and across the world has been ran at by the threat of violence, by the threat of government, and from both of those coming from the same thing, and that is people wanting to control another. I really hope that this message is just not me rambling, and this is you guys are picking up what I'm putting down. I really do hope that, because it is very important. There we go. All right. Almost got the article up. But I really do hope that means something to you guys, that you guys are picking up what I'm putting down, because just slow down and think about what it is that's going on in your lives, and look at the political debates that are going on. And I even did a little test last night. I did a little test because I've seen on Facebook that there's a picture of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, right? And it's got it's a meme. So for the subheader and the bottom header, for both of the headers there, it was basically, I like taking the guns early. Take the guns first and worry about due process later. That was the quote on there. And I was shocked at how many people became deranged and said, yes, she is a dirty, dirty communist. She is a dirty person that doesn't respect us, doesn't respect our rights and anything else. Every single one of those people that jumped onto that conclusion without verifying anything, without looking at the actual evidence and going, all right, I see a picture. Is this true? Going out and figuring out, is this true? Instead, going off of their gut feeling. I don't like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. This is something that I don't like that was being said. Obviously, it was this side. I got called a communist for saying, yeah, that was President Trump who said that. Whether you like President Trump or not does not mean that when he says something, it cannot be criticized or that it shouldn't be criticized. We're so stuck in this idolatry. We're so stuck on the idea that somebody is fighting for our rights. Somebody's fighting for our freedom. Somebody's fighting to move the needle in our direction. So anything that they do is absolutely defendable. Everything that they do must be defended at all costs. And you become the NPCs. You become the people that we often criticize. And we have to understand that it's important. It's so vital. It's so vital to verify in 2019. It's so vital to be objective, to look at this all. And if you guys don't want to do that, that's fine. But at least try to find sources that are. Try to find people that are willing to do this. I've been pushed out of groups. I'll be honest with you. I've been pushed out of groups because I will call people out for doing it for the lulz, if you will. Doing it for the laughs. Doing it because it feels good. Doing it because hitting back at the left was better than being an honest person. And then it's just a character check at that point. It's just a character check. Are you a big enough person? Are you a good enough person to say, this is not how I want to live? I would rather live, instead of having the momentary joy of being able to watch somebody else get hurt, of watching somebody else get angry, of watching somebody else get frustrated with things. Or am I going to be happier being honest? Being able to go, yeah, it sucks. President Trump has said a lot of disgusting things in the past. There are some things that President Trump has said that have been criticized and have been torn apart and been destroyed by the left that were nonsensical, right? I'm not saying that everything that anyone says or does should be criticized or should be destroyed, right? But at least understand it. Understand, take it in. And I see us failing this, and I realize I got way off tangent on this one. But it really is. It's so vital that we bring this all back, and we be objective, and we look at things for the truth. And Kamala Harris, thank you for fighting for legalizing marijuana. Thank you for standing up for that. I appreciate you for bringing back some liberty back to the people. But don't be hypocritical and don't lie about how it went through. It just makes your case even worse. So she was on DJ Envy show, and DJ Envy said, "What do you listen to? What does Kamala Harris listen to?" And then Charlemagne the God chimes in, his words overlapping with the initial questions. "What were you listening to when you was high? What was you on? What song was it? Was it Snoop?" asked another host. "Oh yeah, definitely Snoop. Tupac for sure." Problem was that Harris graduated in Howard University, or from Howard University, in 1986. Tupac Shakur didn't come out until 1991. Snoop Dogg didn't come out until 1993. So understanding her timeline, she was saying that she was doing this in school. That she had done this during school. It's kind of hard to be listening to those futuristic tunes. You know what I'm saying? That must have been a really good high. That must have been the most amazing weed that anyone has ever smoked, because Kamala Harris was listening to music 7 years ahead. 5 years ahead. Beautiful. Hook me up with that dealer, yo. But it hurts your credibility in every way. And I love it. I love it. So Kamala Harris, if you've been watching the Democratic candidates, there has been one select favorite, and that has been Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris has been, for the most part, been ignored by the media for a lot of her mess ups and her slip ups, and she hasn't been attacked in the same way that everyone else has. We had Tulsi Gabbard, who was attacked and said that the Russians were paying her off, and they were working and they were infiltrating her campaign to help her and get support her because she's anti-war. Being anti-war means that Russia is indoctrinating you in order to be that. News for anyone out there: you may not be anti-war, but when I'm anti-war, it's not because Russia is trying to support me. It's because I want to protect America's interest, and America's interest is not being interfering in every country out there. So you have Tulsi Gabbard being attacked. You've got, what was that individual from Minnesota? The senator. I forgot her name, but it was the woman that, it was the female senator who had accusations about how she treated her staff. She was very angry, was throwing things, right? That came out just days before she came out to file her official campaign. So she already came off on a rocky start. Cory Booker. What happened to Cory Booker? Of course, the story of him sexually assaulting a 17-year-old boy, you know that one's coming up. You know the story of him making up dealers in order to have a situation, to have a case, to have a story, right? You know that one's coming back up. Kamala Harris flipping on all of her stances hasn't been an issue for the left. Hasn't been an issue. Kamala Harris sleeping her way to the top wasn't an issue. It was attempted by the right to bring that back up, but you know the left wasn't talking about that at all. Kamala Harris going after people, going after for harsher sentencings for people for drug use. That's not an issue. For going after, for fighting for people to be let off for heinous crimes. That's not an issue, right? They have not held Kamala Harris accountable. And I really do think that they're going to leave this one and they're going to focus on this one. Why are they going to focus on this one? Because how nonsensical is this? How stupid of a thing is this? She got her timeline mixed up for when she smoked weed. She smoked weed? Yeah. All right, next controversy, right? This is really going to be what they're going to hook onto. This is going to be the big focal point for Kamala Harris for a little while. It gets her publicity, right? Because look at how easy you could just brush this off and go, all right, Where's the next big thing? Where's the next big issue? If this is the biggest thing that the left is going to throw at her, she is the Hillary Rodham Clinton of 2016. She has the red carpet laid out before her, and she will be walking just calmly, just taking a nice little stroll through the campaign as people behind her are scrambling to keep things together, as they're pushing and frauding and working around to ensure that the DNC gets their way once again. Because despite the fact that I hate Bernie Sanders, despite the fact that I vehemently disagree with almost every single thing that Bernie Sanders did, I'm at least man enough to say that Bernie Sanders was robbed during the 2016 election. When he runs in 2020, which I'm sure that he will be, I'm sure he's like, oh, there's only 100 hats in the ring. Maybe I'll throw mine in there. When he runs, he's going to get pushed out again. Good. You didn't learn your lesson the first time, old man. And the world didn't learn the lesson about socialism the first time either, or the next 15, 20, 30 times. Didn't learn from the first 100 million that were killed in 100 years. So, Kamala Harris is obviously fundamental issues with her past, with her rhetoric, and everything else. Don't let this be the biggest thing that don't let this be your talking point against her. Don't let this be it. If you want to go after Kamala Harris, go under Reason. There's an article called Kamala Harris Hopes You'll Forget Her Record as a Drug Warrior and Draconian Prosecutor. Harris on sex workers. Harris's political rise has been propelled by a years-long high-profile campaign against alleged sex traffickers, what she's actually done is help throw women in jail for having consensual sex, while trampling on the rule of law to advance her own political ambitions. Sounds like a good woman there. Prosecutorial misconduct. In her memoir, Harris decries America's deep and dark history of people using the power of the prosecutor as an instrument of injustice by framing innocent men and hiding exculpatory evidence. But during her time as California's top cop, she contributed to that history by repeatedly going to bat for dirty prosecutors. Harris war on drugs. Harris is a former drug warrior who's now refashioning herself as pro-legalization. That's the pro-shift, or the positive shift. Or that's a positive shift, I agree. But not a reason to rewrite the past or ignore the patterns it reveals in her judgment. For years, the cultural tide has turned in favor of support of criminal justice reforms. Harris continues to support lock-em-up policies that disproportionately hurt minorities. She's not a fan of those minorities. Unless they're at the voting booth, then she loves you. Sounds like a typical politician to me. So go check out that article from Reason, right? You get it. If you're going to go after her and you're going to go after her for this marijuana thing, at least hit him with the other stuff, because that actually has a lot more substance. It's not just, she's flipping on it. She's trying to get votes, but she's actually done some wrongdoing. Throwing people in cages for consensual sex is wrong. I don't care. If your whole issue was that money was transacted, somebody had a camera phone on. How about that? Now it's porn. Can we move on with life? It's consensual sex. Get over it. It's 2019. Ugh. I'm sorry. I forgot. I've got blocking ads. Washington Post won't play for me. But Mitch McConnell's planning on dropping the Green Deal, the Green New Deal. He's going to bring that up to the Senate floor. And what is that going to do for us? That is going to enable all of the senators to man up or to shut up. So all of the senators, I believe there's 11 senators right now that have vocalized support for the Green New Deal. And by putting them on record as doing so, with the tragedy, with the atrocity, with the, grotesqueness of what is within that bill, They're opening themselves up to be destroyed in any purple counties, in any purple states, in any purple areas, or even just slightly left-leaning areas, because those are the people that are going to get trashed in 2020. Let's hope that the black community turns on her at the polls. I mean, I just hope people will start thinking for themselves. Politico, Business Insider, no. All right, let's go to NPR, because NPR doesn't have a left-leaning bias about them. We're gonna read it. We're gonna read this one from NPR. This was obviously from today. But bringing that up to the Senate, I think is a really good move. It's a strong move to say this is absolutely ridiculous bull. It is a cow fart. Are you willing to vocalize that you are not in support of cow farts? Are you going to make the entire country go vegetarian with regards to cows? Are you going to shut down the entire nation for 10 years and rebuild every building across this nation, which requires 30,000 buildings per day. 30,000 buildings per day to rebuild this entire nation. Could you imagine shutting down the economy for 10 years to be able to rebuild 30,000 buildings per day? So you're planning on destroying the economy while taking from the economy to reinvest it into the buildings and then getting everything started back up. That entire hiccup of time, you have no revenue coming in, but you still have plenty out, an exorbitant amount that is being thrown out. You're going to get rid of the airplanes, which, if we could go on a side note real quick, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez says we don't need planes, we need trains. If you guys have read Atlas Shrugged, it says we don't need planes, we need trains. What is that idea? What does that actually bring to your mind when somebody says you don't need planes, you only need trains? When the only area you can go to is to go to Canada or you can go to Mexico. But if we get the wall, it's going to be a little more difficult to get down that way. So you can take a boat, or you're stuck going to one of the mainlands, going to one of the other areas. This is a way that you keep people in. This is a way that you keep businesses in. This is a way to force people to stay within your society. Why is that bad? Because people are free. And when you start imposing socialism, when you start imposing communism, we know that business leaders want to leave. We know that the big businesses start leaving. The floodgates open, they start leaving, which means the medium-sized businesses leave, and you're left with small businesses that can't handle the new demand, so they start collapsing. And what you have is modern-day Venezuela. So when they say no planes, all trains, know what they mean. Know what that logically brings you to. If you can't leave, you're stuck. If you're stuck, well, enjoy being a slave to the system, boys and girls. So Mitch McConnell bringing that up, great point. So we talked about the cow farts, right? Got to get rid of the cow farts. Cow farts bad. No planes, all trains. Rebuild 30,000 buildings per day. And while we're at it, let's just get rid of all power generation and move to a green energy source. Let's just do exactly what Germany tried to do and try to move to all green energy, and then watch as families can't afford to do these things. Watch as families can't afford to have their lights on, to keep their refrigerators cold, to be able to function as normal people. It's all because we love Mother Earth. We don't care about you. We don't care about you, the country. We care about Mother Earth. And sure, I care about the earth as well. I would like to protect the earth as much as I can. I would like to have businesses be able to be encouraged to be better with their energy production, to have less radiation, to have less emittance. And that's why I do a little bit of research. I look at what businesses are around me. I see which ones are a little more healthy, which ones are a little bit better for the environment, which ones are better in this way or that way. And I go with the better option. Sometimes it costs me a little more. Sometimes it costs me a little bit less. But I make an informed decision. And if our entire society does that, guess what? We are incentivizing these businesses to do better. We're incentivizing these businesses to take the next step. It doesn't take any force. And when you have to force a system on somebody, it's probably because your system sucks. Can we be honest? If I'm telling you, no, you got to walk across this floor of Legos to get over to the other side, and you're like, I could go around the house. I'll go around the house and I can go in through that window. I can do that. No. You have to go across these Legos. You gotta be barefoot. Maybe Legos is not good enough. Legos that are made out of metal and on fire. All right. You got little titanium Legos that are burning, class Delta fire. But it's you don't. If you have to force a system, your system sucks. That's a basic premise. If I can give you an idea and you want to do it, that idea is already inherently better because I didn't have to force you to do anything. And we can incentivize people to make better deals, better ideas. And it doesn't take the big arm of government to do so. So here's what Mitch McConnell said with regards to this. I've noted a great interest on the Green New Deal, and we're going to be voting on that in the Senate. I'll give everybody an opportunity to go on record and see how they feel about the Green New Deal. This is going to be good. It's going to be good. This immediately provoked controversy. While some environmental advocates applauded the plan's grand scope, experts say the plan's aim to get net zero carbon emissions in 10 years seemed unrealistic. Seemed unrealistic or is unrealistic? Critics also pounced on a blog post from the Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's office, now taken down, said that the policy assures economic security to all who are unable or unwilling to work. So I did not read that last week because I did not read it from her site. I did not read it from, I believe this was from the frequently asked questions on that page. But she went one step further. Let's see, there's 10 steps in what communism needs to have in order to be achieved. And universal basic income is one of those. If you're unable to work and you're unwilling to work, we'll provide you with money. That's one of those big steps for universal basic, or for communism to thrive and survive. She put it up there. Her staff, one of her staffers, forgot his name and forgot his actual title. Effectively, like her chief of staff, right? Person, the big wig behind all this, had basically said, "Yeah, that's not what we said. That was a draft. It's not real. It's not right, guys. Stop making up conspiracies." It's amazing. It's amazing to me how many conspiracies have been driven around this idea coming from Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and the people working around her. When Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez was on CNBC, I think it was, she said, yeah, I'll admit that this requires a lot of government intervention. It requires the government to be there every step of the way. And then later on that same night says it's a right-wing conspiracy to think that it takes the government to do all this stuff. It seems like whenever they realize that they're not getting good publicity, that that their honesty isn't helping the medicine go down. That the next way to help force it down is just to say, you guys are gaslighting the situation. Stop coming in here with your conspiracy theories. Even NPR is not speaking positively about this. In addition, the bill lays out some lofty goals that could require massive, difficult-to-administer new programs like a job guarantee and a plan to upgrade every building in the country for energy efficiency. That 30,000 buildings per day, like I said. Mitch McConnell's goal, of course, is not to help the bill pass. Putting it to a vote will force Democrats in the Senate to take a stand on the controversial framework. Markey's office responded with a statement chastising Mitch McConnell for threatening to call a vote on the resolution without committee hearings, expert testimony, or true national debate. It's amazing. It's amazing whenever you see somebody that comes out and goes, we need to have a national debate first. We need to hear what everyone is thinking about. But at the same time, these are the same people that say, my people don't know what they're talking about. We, of course, don't want to have and abide by the Constitution. We, of course, don't want to actually listen to our own oaths and do this stuff. We don't want to listen to the people when they want to hold us accountable. When we say that we're going to use our money as sex funds, the American taxpayer, we're going to use their money to cover up, to hide our sex scandals. They don't need to know about that. When we've demanded for we, the people, demanded for more protection at the border, when we demanded for a wall, you guys don't know what you're talking about. We don't want to hear the national debate. Expert testimony. Oh, who's the experts? Oh, it's the guys that are working down there on the field. What do they think? They want the border. We don't want to listen to them either. Committee hearings? What do we need to talk about? We don't need to negotiate. Why would we negotiate this? Right? It's funny. It's funny how you can watch these people put out defenses that they themselves wouldn't want to listen to when it would be to the detriment of their own stance, right? When they're openly this hypocritical, you have to stop and wonder. You have to stop and ask, why is it? And we go back to the conversation early on from the show. They have offered no plan to address the economic and national security threat and want to sabotage any effort that makes big oil and corporate polluters pay, Markey said. They have offered no plan to address this economic and national security threat. So it's an economic threat to put it in place. It's not an economic threat, right? So the way that he's trying to say this is that the economic and national security threat is the climate change, right? And that's within the bill itself. Within the writing, it says that it is an economic and national security threat. And he's saying, look, they don't want to actually address climate change. They don't want to do anything. So you can't get mad at us for trying to push out some ridiculously huge bill that's going to destroy everything and destroy the lives of every American. But don't worry, we'll have to raise your taxes twofold in order to pay for the jobs of the people that are unwilling, or not for the jobs, but just to pay the people that are unwilling, or to pay the people of the jobs that actually do want to work. And the only way that you can be a leader is by being a part of the victim hierarchy. The higher on the victim scale you are, the better off you'll be. It is disgusting to think that climate change is an economic and national security when for the last 100 years, we've only had a decade away. We've only been a decade away. In accordance with Alexander Ocasio-Cortez, we have 12 years now. Looks like we've got progress. Can I say that enough? We got progress if it's been 10 years, 10 years, 10 years, 10 years, and then now you're saying 12. I don't care. If you want to actually have a conversation about this, if you actually want to have committee hearings, if you want to have expert testimony or a true national debate, let's stop having feelings discussions, and let's actually talk about the facts. Let's talk about the statistics. Let's talk about the fact that the ice caps have been growing. Let's talk about the fact that the entire climate has been changing since the beginning of the earth. Let's talk about what percentage you believe that it is man-made climate change. Let's figure out where the peak, where the supreme, the cream of the crop climate is, and how far away we are from it. Are we above it? Are we below it? Where are we at in that scale? And let me know when the world stops responding to this stuff. Because as the science that I've found out, if we do continue to climb, if the climate continues to go up, you know what that means? Vegetation grows, which means that we would be in a society, we would be in a world where vegetation grows at a faster rate, at a higher rate, at a more robust, and being able to survive much more easily. That sounds like a huge detriment to the world, which also means that carbon that's being emitted gets sucked up, gets ate up, turned back into oxygen. This sounds really terrible, guys. Can we have an actual national discussion about this? Or are we just going to keep being nonsensical little crybabies on both sides of the aisle? Broadly speaking, Democrats do support action on climate change. 2/3 say it should be a top priority for Trump and Congress this year. Despite the fact that it's 12 years away, we need to do it today because Trump's in office. But the question is whether they'll support the Green New Deal as they learn more about it. Read it once. It's like 6 pages. Not that big. Having a vote on what may be polarizing issue among voters may force lawmakers to choose between appeasing moderates and their liberal base. I thought liberals were supposed to be the moderates. Among them, many progressive activists who supported the concept of the Green New Deal long before the bill was released. Yes, so the people that have been the talking heads, that have been emotional, that have been coming out there and to steer you in the way of going the way that they think that it should be moved to, are already selected, right? These, as they say, the progressives, the socialists, the democratic socialists, the communists, those people on the far left, they've already... It says green, it says new, and it's a deal, right? New Deal was great because it was an imparted socialism. Green means green, it's good. I'm on board. I'm sorry to absolutely strawman what they're saying, but the basis behind their entire claim is it's got to be good. It came from a loony left. The moderates that are in office are few and far between. Honestly, the Democrats do not have very many moderates, and those moderates that are in have been appeasing the radical left because they know within the DNC, within the Democratic Party, across this nation, that even though there's the establishment Democrats and the progressive Democrats, even though you have those two different divides, right now the establishment Democrats are trying to figure out how to keep up, how to maintain, how to fight against the progressive left. And they're not winning these battles. They're not winning them. Nancy Pelosi put a target on her head when she called it the Green Dream. The Green Dream. She put a target on her head. Do I think it's going to be detrimental to her? I don't think so. But she definitely got a lot more activists out there and outraged and ready to take her out. And that doesn't mean that she will be taken out directly. That means that others around her, other Democrats within the Democratic platform will be taken out, will be going out. And the battle will continue between those two. The divide between the progressive left and the moderate or the establishment, call them moderates, I apologize, the establishment Democrats, that battle is what's going to start tearing at the integrity of the fabric between the Democratic Party. As those two start shaking and vibrating against each other, we're going to see some cracks in the system. That's going to be beautiful. It's going to be an opportunity for people to break away from the guys that's been pulled over their eyes or from the wool. It's going to be able for people to advocate for freedom again. And hopefully we'll have a lot of breakage and have a lot of people walking away, have a lot of people, the Blexit, we'll have a lot of movements from the progressive left, from the Democratic left, from the establishment left, and moving to the side of saying, these parties don't represent me anymore. They don't represent my values. And one can only hope for that. The resolution has amassed significant but by no means widespread support on Capitol Hill. There are 67 co-sponsors, 67 out of 435, and 11 in the Senate. Yeah, I was right earlier. Including several current or potential presidential contenders. Bernie Sanders, who has not thrown his hat in yet. Kirsten Gillibrand, who also got destroyed in the media. Elizabeth Warren, you know Pocahontas has got to get on board with this stuff. Cory Booker, you know he's got to get on it. He's got to be a victim somehow. And Amy Klobuchar, Klobuchar. I mess up her name. It's not always intentional. She was the one that I was talking about earlier that she had the news coming out just before she publicly announced her presidential race for being aggressive / violent towards objects and her staffers. Schultz and Trump will pick the contenders off one by one. I'm actually super excited for Schultz because he is going to branch off a lot of Democrats. Oh, that man is so beautiful, right? Because he's talking real. He's speaking real. If you're a Trump supporter, go watch Schultz. And when you finish watching him, tell me you're not scared. Tell me you're not scared that the left won't get behind him. Tell me you're not scared that the independents won't get behind him. He's doing something that has been needed to be done. Moderation. Not extreme right, not extreme left, but moderation. This is something that a lot of people should be fearing. If you are a right-winger, if you are a left-winger on the more extreme sides, the moderation, that's what millions of Americans have been calling for. I'm not one of those people. Let me just be honest. I'm pretty radical on the idea that the government sucks. But this moderation, right? Yeah, the right's right on some things. The left is right on some things. Is the view of a lot of Americans. And Schultz is really coming down. He's like, look, economically, you guys are trying to screw over the nation. Stop that. And he can explain it to people because he came up from the ground. He came from the ground up. He built up his life. A lot of people like Starbucks. Well-known company, well-known name. He's got the publicity already set up for himself. So it's just a matter of how he's going to handle the social issues is going to determine on how many people he splinters from which party, which way. Is he going to be splintering off some conservatives? I would bet that he would. There's going to be a lot of never-Trumpers, a lot of Trump haters that are going to be on board with him. It will be interesting. It will be interesting to watch him. I'm glad you brought him up. Trump will be picking off people left and right. Yes, absolutely. Trump will be destroying people the way that Trump has been doing that since he came into office, even before, right? He's one of those guys. He'll throw a tweet at you. You'll get offended. You'll get outraged. The emotions comes out, and then he hits you with that KO. And oh boy, are so many people going to be seeing stars coming up soon. All right, so continuing on. Republicans. So Mitch McConnell is now the voice of all Republicans. Republicans showed on Tuesday that they're ready to use this resolution as a political weapon against Democrats. Can you imagine who's this writer? Hold on. I got to see who's this writer because that is nonsensical. Danielle Kurtzleben. Oh no. Oh, there it is. All right. Could you imagine trying to figure out how you can forge this? How you can manufacture this? Well, the Democrats just forged a sword. They forged a giant claymore. 54 inches long, giant, massive hunk of metal, sharpened it beautifully. Thing can cut through anything that you want to. And they put it on the table. And the Republicans are now going to use it as a political weapon. Oh, how dare the Republicans? It is so interesting to watch this very hard left turn the Democratic Party has taken. And it's also interesting to watch all these Democratic presidential candidates rubber stamp the Green New Deal. Senator John Barrasso of Wyoming said Tuesday. Pretty good. However, plenty of Democrats still aren't sold on the bill. Among them, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. Yes, we spoke about her a second ago. She opted to frame it as one of potentially many anti-climate change proposals. Ooh. We welcome the enthusiasm that is there. So she's not... give it to Nancy, right? Being establishment. She's like, no, I don't like that idea. There's going to be many more, though. There's going to be many more. So she's at least on the idea of capitalism when it comes to ideas of destroying our markets, of destroying our economy and everything else. So props to her for that, at least, all right? We welcome the enthusiasm that is there. I'm very excited about it all, and I welcome the Green New Deal and any other proposals that people have out there. The Senate vote is not yet scheduled, and a spokesperson for McConnell said that the Republican leader's office doesn't expect it to come this week. So I'm excited to see how that's going to unfold, but... I'm not excited if votes are passing. If anyone in my state, if Lindsey Graham or Tim Scott votes for it, they're all going to be hearing from me. I don't care. If you're in my state, you're not going to disrespect the South Carolinians like that. I hope that you guys will be watching this. If you have somebody in your state that actually votes for this, if it comes up, if it actually goes through. If somebody's co-sponsoring it right now from your state, give them a call, give everyone else a call and say, we got to make this change. We got to make this change. We got to get these people out because they are literally, they're not only working against the rich people in this country, but they're working against the middle class. They're working against the poor, right? It is not about what the intent of the bill is. It's not about the intent, because the intent can be whatever they want to say it is. But it's about what that bill will actually cause. It's about the causation, or is about the result. And that's why, you know, Calvin Coolidge, the 30th president of the United States, he has a great embodiment of what the purpose of being a legislator is. And it was that it is better to remove bad bills than to make good bills, right? It is better to take out the bad things than to try to make new good things, because hell is lined with good intentions, right? It doesn't matter what your intentions were, bad results will come. And certainly when the government tries to run things, and they certainly when they're trying to control every aspect of your life, it's not going to be in our best interest. So make sure you guys are holding your people accountable. Hold your elected officials and your representatives accountable. If you're in their district, you have more say. You might be able to get through. You might actually get a call back. You might, try to be civilized in some way, but you got to make the message be heard. We need to be doing better. All of us, every single one of us, regardless if you call 20 times a week, do 25 times. If you've never called in your life, get to know your representatives. And let's start worrying about the national debate if people are going to try and bring that up. Let's actually let our voices be heard, and let's take back our country. So I want to thank you guys all for joining in tonight. Make sure you guys are also, while I have you guys here, I called them out in the beginning of the show, but Muddied Waters of Freedom, make sure you guys are tuning into them. They're on YouTube, they're on Facebook, and they're on Periscope. I think Spike and Matt are actually doing a show right now, so I've shared it out. Make sure you guys go back, tune into that. That is Muddied Waters of Freedom. You guys are going to be hearing about current events. You'll be throughout the week, you'll be seeing new guests come on with Spike. He's going to be trying to turn them more to the side of anti-government, more to the side of believing in the individual, of empowering the individual, and bringing back to the idea that the community is better than the whole. So I want to thank you guys for coming in tonight. I am Mr. America, the Bearded Truth, Jason Lyon. I will see you guys the next time, Friday night, 7 p.m. Eastern. I can't wait to see you guys there. And hope you guys enjoy the rest of your week. So have a good one. I'll see you guys then. Good night.